Alright. Hello everybody and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4. My name is Kevin Gully and I am going to walk you through how to play this game. Whenever I first got this game, it was it's a big learning curve. It's tough to play it. It's tough to figure out how to play it. So I had to watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to actually figure out how to play all this thing, and although I'm not an expert, I do want to try to walk you through all the little details and help you figure out how to play this thing quicker. So I'm going to try to take my time and explain thoroughly as much as I can and take this thing really slow. I want to give a special shout out to Braden. He's the coolest kid I know. 11-year-old. I'm hoping one day I'll get this game and start playing it. Anyways, the reason why I like this game so much is because it's so thorough and intricate. And you face a lot of the same problems that the country that you choose faced in the real world. So anyways, let's get started. We're going to start today by playing as Germany. Now you can start from 1936 or 1939. We're going to start from 1936 so that we can build this thing properly. It says, "The gathering storm. Dark times are coming. In Europe, Hitler has consolidated his power and his attention is now increasing beyond the German borders. Mussolini's Italy continues to embark on military adventures, while the Empire of Japan stands poised to attack China in Asia. Almost 20 years has passed since the Great War, and the world has yet again been doused in gasoline. A single spark may be all it takes." So you have a couple different countries you can choose from. You got France, the United States, United Kingdom, and then a lot of its different territories of the empire. You got the German Reich, Italy, Japan, the Soviet Union, Mexico, Poland, the domination of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, British Raj, and China. Now you can pick any country you want. So just for example, anybody you want to be. If you want to be, Latvia, you can absolutely do that. It is a little tougher because they don't have the industrial muscle or the resources of any of these big nations, but for today, we're going to be the German Empire. So we'll keep it on regular. Recruit gives you a couple different advantages. As you can see, you get production cap efficiency, more political power. Political power allows you to elect certain leaders or put in certain people that are going to help your country in a couple different ways. Let's see. And veteran will take away a couple things. Now we're just going to play on regular Iron Man mode, so no safe scrubbing, and then we'll do a historical focus. So, I'm not going to, as Germany, I'm not going to ally with France, and then we're just going to go conquer everybody. With Germany, it tries to keep the history as accurate as possible. So it'll be me and Italy and Japan, and then although some elements might change, the majority of what happened is going to continue to happen. So some of the indicators we have that will help us out here is we'll be able to send volunteers, and then we can go to war faster. So whenever whenever Spain has its civil war, I can send over people to help out if I want. Don't have to though. So the majority of my country is being run by the NSDAP, or the Nazi Party. We are bitter losers from World War I, which means that we can create a faction, which will be the Axis, but we will not drift away from our government's, our Nazism. General staff. So our generals are some of the best in the world, which is fantastic for us because, we're going to have a pretty weak navy. Especially in comparison to France and the United Kingdom and America. So it'll be important for us to focus on developing our army. Expansion of Lebensraum, which is living space. So we'll be able to go to war faster. Our national unity is going to be higher, so our people are going to be behind us. And the effect that the enemies will have, the resistance will be a little bit stronger. So let's get started. We'll just name this, well, that's fine. We'll name it that. Okay. Now, what's nice about this game is, like I was saying before, you face a lot of the same problems that, for example, Hitler had in this time frame. So, you know, we don't have a strong navy. Right now, we just have 18 ships here, 8 there, and then 10 there. So, as opposed to America, they start off with over 200 ships, I think. It's pretty crazy. So, if you want to make a strong navy, it's going to be a lot of work. But we start off with the inefficient resources, right? So oil and rubber. Now, this is the same things that Hitler had in the day. So you do have a couple solutions to this: synthetic oil production, things like that. But it's important if we can find oil and grab it up. Now, in Europe, there's not much oil, right? Just like there is now and there was then. There's not much oil. So you can see we got a little oil here, little oil there. I mean, oil is going to be huge for a war machine. Now, there is oil fields in Romania, right? That we can capture eventually or ally up with Romania or whatever. But the Soviet Union, if we can get Baku right here in Azerbaijan, that would be huge if we can capture that. Now, that was a big goal for Hitler at the time. He invaded in, he was going to cut down to Baku, but he got stopped up at Stalingrad, right? So he was worried about his armies getting cut off right here. So if we can get Baku, we got this war in the bag. But until then, we're going to have to rely on synthetic oil production. Okay. So these are all the different things that we have as far as like resources. Looks like we're over right here on the tungsten, so we can probably cut down on this from Sweden. So we don't need to bring in imports, because it brings in 8 at a time. So if you're above 8 on any of these, you don't need to import anything. So we can take that down. But we do need to bring in some rubber. We'll just trade with England for now. It's fine. We'll fix that before we go to war, because once we go to war, obviously they're not going to want to trade with us anymore. Oil, we'll bring in some from the Soviet Union. Same thing. We'll cut that off by the time we go to war. Now, with Germany, it's really nice because you have a very strong land force, which is obviously going to be something we're going to want to expand on, because we're going to be invading everybody here. Germany has really good technology, so we have 4 different technology slots. Now, whenever you start with countries like the Soviet Union, for example, right? Soviet Union, they have all the resources in the world, right? But their technology sucks. So whenever we eventually go to war with them, they're going to have an enormous population, right? And enormous resources and industrial muscle. So they're going to have, I mean, it's not uncommon for them to have 500 divisions, right? Or 700 divisions sometimes. As Germany, we're not going to have that because we don't even have the population. If you see here, we got, let's see. Oh, here we go. So it says 2.50 eligible population is available, but it's a population of 65.54 million, right? As opposed to the Soviet Union, which is, I don't know, I can't remember, like 120 to 150 million, something like that. So they're huge. So we have to defeat them the same way Germany tried to defeat them, which is very quickly. We can't be bogged down into a war of attrition because they're going to outproduce us. They got resources. They got men. It's going to be very bad for us, like it was for Germany in the real days. Now, what I'm going to try to do is play this game all the way through. So if they end up beating me, I'm just going to put that on the internet, and then we'll, y'all can just, I guess, I don't know, learn from my mistake. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this game. I just got it a couple months ago. This video is more for like just brand new people to the game. So, if we're going on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being somebody who's just playing for the first time and 10 being somebody that's an absolute expert, I'd put myself at about a 6 or 7. I think I know most of it, at least all the basics, so I can help you out as much as possible. Let's go ahead and run through this. Okay, so we had a couple different things we can choose from here. This one is all about our infantry, right? So you got different guns that you can, different weaponry you can advance to depending on the times. Now, if I research this and then I want to go to this 1938 and it's still 1936, like it is now, if you can notice up here, I research this at a penalty. So if I were to research it right now, it'd take 507 days, right? Because the technology is 2 years advanced. So it really doesn't. It punishes me more than it helps me to to research it this early on. So we'll wait, but we definitely want our equipment up to date as much as possible right now. So we'll research that. This is different divisions that we can make our infantry, right? So for example, this is a field hospital, so it'll help our men when they get into a battle. More will survive because we'll have better medical care for them. Get your MPs, which would be important because when we need to make Gestapo units to hold down the partisans in France, right? Because of resistance. But we'll wait on that. You got like logistics, so you use less supplies. That's important. You get your armor. You can advance through your armor. Now, see, we don't even have to make any advancements until 1939. That's when the Panzer III comes out. Oh, I forgot. You know what? This has a couple different extra ones. I totally forgot. I'm playing the version that's the Road to 56. So I like this version the best. It has a couple different extra things. So people that are watching this, you might not have these like ET or X. I'll just stay away from advancing that technology because you might not have that in the beginning. So I downloaded this through Stream, so if you want to, you can always go in and get these extra features. I'll not use these this time, so as not to confuse anybody. This is your artillery, so we can advance our artillery units. We do have armored cars. I don't think they have that in the regular game, but again, you can always get this version. This is your battle plan. So for us, you can go to any one of these you want, but for us, mobile warfare is obviously something the Germans did. Blitzkrieg, all that, right? Superior firepower might be best used for America because they had just, tons of different technologies and bombs and all that stuff. Because, they have the biggest industrial muscle of any other country on this game, but they are, like in real life, restricted as far as what they can do, their means of getting into the war, because at the time, America was, supported by isolationism. So they had a lot of trouble. Hold on really fast, sorry. Okay. So we'll hold off on that. You got your Navy, where you can advance all your ships. You got submarines, carriers, all that stuff. Your naval doctrine, so that'll be all your naval plans. Your ability for your generals to be better in their tactics. That's what this is for as well. So we definitely want to advance this because we're going to focus hard on my main army, right? My standing troops, right? Not so much my Air Force, and definitely not my Navy. I'm going to skip over that completely because that's not really going to be super helpful for us right away. Our planes, this will be a big deal. We get the BF-109, the Stuka dive bombers. So we'll advance all these in time. This again is your Air Force doctrine, how well your generals can perform in the battlefield, and this and that. So strategic destruction, that is definitely something that the United States would advance, right? As opposed to us or battlefield support. The Blitzkrieg involves Air Force going in real hard and mobile infantry following up really fast. So this is obviously what we're going to need. While strategic destruction for the United States is what they're going to need because they're going to try to bomb Germany, right? Industry. Engineering. So this is our development of the V2 rockets and jet engines. This is our development for the atomic weapons. And this here is our development for radar sites and encrypting our plans and things like that. Because you're going to want to make a plan of attack, get all your troops in place, and then actually attack. Well, what I've noticed is if you don't advance your communications very well, it's like the German Enigma machine, right? The allies or whoever you're fighting, they will encrypt what you're doing and they'll prepare for it, which is definitely not what we want, because I've done it to where I'll attack somewhere and I've noticed, man, they're really strong in that area. It's because they can see what I'm doing. So I want to encrypt all my plans. So we'll definitely need to advance this. Now this one here, electric mechanic engineering. You can see it takes off 1% of your research time. So that's going to be something definitely worth doing. Otherwise, this is all industry, right? So we'll want to advance this as much as possible as well. Synthetic oil production. We've already have this, so we can actually build synthetic oil plants, which is definitely something we're going to want to focus on right away, because we're sitting at a deficit of both rubber and oil, which this will do both. You'll get 7 oil and 4 rubber. You can always advance these. This will enable us to where we can stack multiple oil plants in a single territory. But for now, we'll do construction. This will increase our construction speed and our factory repair speed for whenever they get bombed or in war or whatever. So that's going to be important. We'll also do basic machine tools will increase our production efficiency. So that's definitely going to be important. You'll see it here. Here. Where are we at? That's production efficiency. So right now we're producing all these at a 50% efficiency. If you don't have resources like this, for example, our efficiency is going to be awful, because we don't have the resources to actually produce this thing. So it says 50%, but lack of resources throws it down 7.5%. So that's going to be huge, right? So right now we need to increase our military factories. We have all these unavailable, and then we have naval. Okay, so let's look at our naval real fast, since we just have one. One thing I like to do is it's only building so many of these ships. 1, 4, 8. I'm going to make these infinite. So it just keeps building submarines, destroyers, and heavy cruisers, right? Also, I want to build some convoys to move around supplies. And then we'll up this. That's going to be good for moving around supplies, for trade routes. That's going to be good for moving troops for invasions, which we're going to need because we're going to hit Norway hard. So let's take a look at this. We're going to build up a lot of troops, right? So we need them to have equipment. That's going to be huge. So we'll bring our equipment production all the way up. Artillery is going to be big. Tanks, that's 2 of these. Oh, look, we don't have any fighters. Okay, so let's put in some fighters. BF 109, we'll do 2 of those. And let's see, we are Germany, so should we do heavy tanks? Yeah, let's throw in a heavy tank. And then whenever we start building more factories, I'd like to push this up to there. And this is like, whenever we build more factories, these are automatically going to fill in. Otherwise, they're going to say, hey, you got a factory that isn't being used for anything. You need to figure out where to put it. So, that's probably good for right now. Bump that up. Bump that up. I think this is more important, so we'll put this. It's going to fill in faster. It's at a higher priority number. And then I think that would... And then like that. Okay. Yeah, because Navy's... Or Air Force is going to be big. Fighters going to be really big. Now, see the deficit we're at with oil? Okay, let me... Whenever you say the game isn't even playing right now, we're paused, right? So if you push the space bar, it'll start the game up. I want to do that just for a second to see my resources fill in, okay? Okay. Did that work? No, that didn't work. Hold on. Let's go a whole day. Okay, now our resources filled in. So we're still at a deficit with oil. We're still at a deficit with... Oh, no. We're good on rubber now. Okay. Now, whenever you get a shipment of supplies, right, or oil or whatever, you have to give up. So like whenever we get 8 of them like this, right, like this, 16, right? Whenever you get this, you have to give up a factory. Now our factories enable us to build. So because we're Germany, we're gonna be invading everybody. I don't see it necessary to build civilian factories with these guys right away. Synthetic refinery is obviously gonna be very important. So and then we'll do some military factories, right? It's probably not smart to build them on this side, but it's all right. It's all right. And then we'll do a little navies, right? So we can produce more ships. Anti-aircraft is going to definitely be important. Can't build in the Rhineland yet until we get able to move troops in there. Once we move troops in there, then we can build and be good. I think that'll be fine for right now. Okay. Let's see. You know what I like to do? Let's build some coastal front. Now, whenever you... Suppose you're at war, right? If they move in... Suppose they have troops here. They move in here, right into our territory, into Germany. I'm going to have troops all stationed here. To help my troops out, I could always build land forts right here, right? So the more you build, the more of a disadvantage it is for the troops to move in. It's going to be harder for them to move in. For example, down here... This here is the Maginot Line. So you see all these different land forts they have. It's going to be extremely hard for me to move troops across this river, for one, and then hit all these land forts. They got anti-aircraft guns. Maginot Line will be extraordinarily difficult for me to advance on right now. So, that's what that does. Anyways, land forts, whenever they invade, they need to first hit a port so they can feed in supplies. So anywhere I see any of these buildings, I'm gonna build 5 of these, right? Some of these aren't even docks. See, I think that's a dock. Is that? I can't even tell what's a dock and what isn't, but I'm just gonna build a bunch anyways, just to be safe. Because if they can't get these, suppose they land somebody here, troops, or they land some troops there, but they don't have any of these docks. These troops are gonna not have any resources, and they're not gonna be able to do a whole lot. Once they run out of resources, you can run 1 division of infantry and take out like 50 divisions of tanks because they don't have any resources. They don't have any gas. They can't move. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's not a dock. I'm gonna go ahead and do this anyway, just because I'm paranoid. That's definitely a dock. Okay, perfect. So that'll get us going. Let's see. Let's intermingle these. I like to intermingle these just so our priorities are, you know, build one of these, build one of those, instead of everything focused on just Navy at the time when that comes up. Okay. So, that's good. In our civilian factors, we only got 14. I think we start off with 15 and 1 or something like that. So once we build this, then I'll be able to get back some factories, because I can lower these, what I'm bringing in from other countries. So it'll be easier. Here's some of our supply routes. Now, whenever you start the game, the Navy is important because they can cut off supplies to your country. So if I'm importing this from, you know, let's just say British Raj, right? Then, or I'll tell you what, maybe from like Mexico or something. The British Navy can cut it off because it's going to come into this port. So as long as they can lock down like the English Channel or any of this area up here, they can stop my imports, which is what they did in real life. And that makes it very difficult on me because Germany's #1 priority is resources. So we'll hold off on this. We're not at too bad of a deficit. I don't want to give up another factory because it's going to take too long to build my stuff. Okay, so national priority. Again, these are a little different because I have road to 56, but that's all right. Let's occupy the Rhineland. Can we do that? Yeah. We'll move troops into the Rhineland. No divisions of basic training. Let's just start up a couple here. Actually, let's just do one for the time being, just so we can build up our resources. So we'll put them in Brandenburg, right around where Berlin is. We have all these different unassigned divisions. What is this? No template for heavy tank. Now, we don't have any heavy tank very much yet. We're running at deficits a lot of this, and heavy tank we haven't even produced, so I'm not worried about putting it in a Panzer division yet, but we will in time. Hurting on resources a little bit, that's fine. We need to build, I would like to build up stock in all of these before we start expanding our navy. I'm sorry, our army. So let's put this, you have to put all your naval divisions at the same port to be able to combine them. So we'll start the game up so that they can get over there. Once they're in the same port, then we can combine them, give them a commander, and then put them wherever we want. Now, you don't have to combine them, but I would like to because I want to try to lock down the Baltic here. Okay. So, there's those. We'll combine them, and then we'll rename this, instead of whatever that says, we'll call it Baltic Fleet. Whoops. Okay, and we'll put Eric Rayner, as our commander. Now, you can do a couple different things. Patrol, search and destroy, convoy raiding. So that would be me, for example, being, let's say I'm putting them in the North Sea and I'm waiting for any convoys to come around England and I'm going to take them out, right? They're getting any shipments in from anywhere on this side of the globe. Otherwise, Bay of Biscay and Western approaches obviously is probably where you want to do that at, just to bleed England out from resources. Because England doesn't have many resources either. They have to draw in from, trade or from their countries in their empire. So, convoy escort, this is, obviously if we're trying to make sure nobody attacks our convoy so we can bring in resources or move troops or whatever. Now for here, I'm just going to search and destroy. We'll put them in the Baltic. Now you can generally pick 3 of these. So if I had here, here, and here if I wanted. Now I'm just going to lock down the Baltic because I know when this war starts, I'm going to invade Denmark and then I'm going to cut off access to the Baltic. Right, so that thing there, the Danish belts. Once I control this area, I can cut off all access to the Baltic. Now that's important for there, and if you were able to own Gibraltar here, right, you can cut off the British or the Americans' access to the Mediterranean. They can still come in through the Red Sea, but if you control also the Suez Canal, you can cut off the entire Mediterranean, which would be huge. But it's going to be very hard to attack Gibraltar. But it can be done. This is a lot easier to get to. Put Rommel here and just storm over. But we'll wait on that, obviously. Okay. Oh, yeah. So our other side, combine these 2 forces. The Kriegsmarine. That's fine. We'll do Karl Dönitz. We'll name this just, Northwest Reich. And we'll just put him right there, just for now. That's fine. Oh, and you know what? I want to increase the size of these navies. So I'd like everything to build up in the Baltic for a minute. So what we're going to do here is we'll go to... where is it at? Oh, yeah, it's here. Okay. You can assign these ships where they're being built at, where they're going to go. Instead of just going into a port, I'm going to say, hey, I want you to go to the Baltic Fleet. And they will up until you change this. So I'd like them to go there for a while until we build that up. Okay, cool. So, let's start organizing our troops. I like to be very organized on this deal. So, we'll have Prussian forces. So we'll just call this Prussia. Now what you have to do is you can group together these guys and start a new army, right? And that gives you the army. Now we want to pick a commander. We'll put Rommel. Now what's nice is we have a lot of fantastic commanders, right? We got us a couple field marshals. We got us some generals. Now, generals are limited on how many divisions you can actually put in their under their command. So if we do Rommel, for example, because he's not a field marshal yet, he has 24 divisions max. Okay. Now we can promote him to field marshal if we want. Let's see. He should be at the bottom now. Right. So we can always promote him, but he loses these attributes. Right now he's a trickster. Right. So his reconnaissance is a lot better. The other one is he's a panzer leader. Right. So if you give him command of tanks, he uses them a lot better than a lot of other people. So for the time being, we're going to keep him as that. Now, some of the options you have here are you can train your troops, you can disband them, you can change these from like infantry to panzer if I wanted, right? Of course, it might not be a good idea at this stage in the game because we don't have a lot of panzers. So let's see where are we at here. Here. So we have 2 panzers, right? He's going to need quite a bit to switch over, and if we do that, he's going to be at a deficit, and we're not going to have the tanks to give him anyway. So what we'll do here is you can do a couple different things. You got your naval invasion, right? We can say, hey, launch from here to, you know, Sweden if we wanted, right? And we're not going to do that, but that's an option. We can say, here's a front line, station your men on it, right? And then they'll go over. We're not going to do that yet either, because I still want to build up guys. Now, the difference is if I say, hey, you go to Rommel's army, they're not going to automatically go to this line, right? So what I like to do is, since I'm not ready to attack, I want to just have them hang out. So you got your garrison area. You can just say, hey, stay in Prussia. And if I were to assign these troops to Rommel, they would automatically go up to the dock and go over, right? Otherwise, I have to manually make them do that if it's on the front line, right? Some other options, you get your fallback line in case they attack, but that's about it. Oh, let me show you how to actually make an attack. Actually, let's set up another army and I'll show you. Let's see here. So this is another one, right? We'll just put them, name this army Polish Border. And I like to periodically go out. Once I invade Poland, I'll rename this to something else and put them somewhere else, right? So we'll put them all along the Polish border. And you just right click and hold that down. And you can make it. Now it's turned yellow because this is a really long border for the amount of troops that I have. Okay, but they're going to station over here. Let's put Gerd von Rundstein. He's my field marshal. So I can add as many troops to this as I want. Von Rundstein. And in real life, this guy was a fantastic Prussian general. One of the best of the war. So I can put him over here. And I can add as many troops as I want. See, there's not an indicator limiting me. So I can have 200 divisions under his command if I wanted. Okay, so we're going to position them all along the border. Now, von Rundstein, he's a skilled 3 general, so I have a little bit of an advantage as far as attack and defense because he's so skilled. Field marshals, one thing that's kind of bad about them is they take longer to become like a skill 4, right? Because they're commanding so many troops or whatever. Now, I think, and I'm not sure, but if you put more troops into their command, they'll advance faster. Okay, so everybody's in their area, right? Everything's good. They're all trying to dig in. And if you keep them there and they dig in, they become harder and harder and harder to attack. So that's another good thing. He is got the defensive doctrine, so he'll entrench at a percentage at an advantage of 30%, right? So that is fantastic. He's also got a strong offensive doctrine. Now, if we're trying to attack, we'll choose our offensive line. And we got our front line, right? Our offensive line is saying, hey, this is where you're going to go. So if we're going to attack Poland, we'll say, hey, y'all need to be right there. Okay? Now, they're not going to do it yet. So I can even push play. See, they're not going to do it yet. They're just preparing for it. And generally what you want to do is wait till they they're fully prepared, okay? So, like, I don't know if you can see these indicators here, but they're 3% prepared. Once they get to 50%, they're not going to get any more prepared, so you can attack at that point. To attack, you would push this button here, right? So right now, they would attack, right? So I'll push play, they would attack. But I'm not actually at war with Poland, so they're not going to attack, right? So I can always delete this. It's fine. But you want to make sure that they're actually in position, right? Even regardless if they're prepared or not. If they're not in position, they're not going to attack. So for the time being, we're going to delete this front line, and we'll just garrison this area. That way I can continue to add troops, and once I'm actually ready to attack, then I'll put them on the front line. Okay, so create another division down here, and we'll call it Bavaria, right? Or we'll call it, I don't know, Bavarian Alps. Because, of course, terrain is a big deal in this game, and that's where there's a lot of mountain ranges at. So we'll put Heinz Guderian in the Alps. He's more of a tank commander, but it's okay. Let's see. All these, where you're attacking at is huge. Like, if we're going to hit Innsbruck or whatever, you can see down here, it is not only a very cold place, especially right now because it's January, so it's winter, but it's mountains. So, I mean, you're going to have a lot of trouble rolling tanks in there, right? That is not the best way to attack. Now, you do have mountain divisions. See, if you can see that. These guys are skilled in the hills and in the mountains. So they have better movement, attack, defense. Now, that's fantastic. That's what we want. You definitely want to focus on things like that. You have Marines for naval invasions, things like that. You don't really want to do panzers and naval divisions. You can, but they're not going to hit as hard as Marines will. So you want to be careful on what you're doing here. Okay, and then the last 5 we'll put up here as, I don't know, we'll just call it northwestern Germany. Okay. And then we'll put Manstein, Erich von Manstein. Brilliant, most brilliant commander of the entire war. He's a skill 4, trickster like Rommel, panzer like Rommel, and a fortress buster. So if I was going to hit that Maginot line, this might be the guy to use. I'm not going to do that, though, because I'm not retarded. We attack France, believe you me. We're not going to hit the Maginot line. That would be way more work than it should be. Okay, we'll take way more casualties, and casualties is important because, you know, our population will start to run out. Okay, so I'll push play, let this thing go into effect, go through some other stuff. This main, let's see, restrictions upon Bulgaria is lifted. The Greek government has agreed to the rearmament of the Bulgarian Empire, or military. After the Great War, Bulgaria has been limited in its military efforts and production. Bulgaria has a record of abiding to them, however, which convinced the Greeks that the effect should be lifted. Okay, I don't even care. Doesn't affect me any. Bulgaria is a little nation right there that I don't even care about. Remember that's red. Demilitarized zone. Huh, I didn't know that. Anyway, some of these other indicators up here. This is our national unity. Ours is really high because at the time the Nazi Party was very popular back then, and all the people were behind them. So that's not tough for us. That's a problem whenever you go to the Soviet Union, right? That becomes a problem. That's why Stalin did all those purges, because he's trying to scare the people behind to, you know, support him. So, okay, what do we got here? This is our political power. I'll show you what we can use that for in a second. This is our population. So we got 65 million, right? But we have a recruitable population right now of 2.5. You can change that, but it costs you political power. Which is fine because we don't need it right now anyways. Our total manpower, right now we got 1.32 million under the 2.5% eligible. Used manpower, we have a in-the-field army of 269,000. We'll have to bump those numbers up because you can't invade Europe with that. Air Force, we got 12,000 in the Air Force. Navy, we got 25,000 in there. We'll bump all that up in the future. These are our factories breakdown. We got 40 military factories, 30 civilian factories. So actually we have 70 factories, right? And as you become more prepared for war, the civilian factories will be converted over to military factories, right? Okay. So, here's our Rhineland's almost done, right? We got 3 more days and we'll occupy the Rhineland. Got our leader. We're fascist. This is a breakdown of the different political parties. These are all the things we've discussed earlier. Okay, laws and government. So this is our conscription, right? We'll start running out of... Let me pause this really fast, since that's done. We'll start running out of people as we build more military units, right? So we can always increase these, go from 2.5 to 5.0. And it makes our training time a little bit longer, and it just keeps going up and up, and you have different effects on how many population that you use. So it sounds like they're weed eating outside, if you can hear that on the mic. So once we start using too much of our population, it starts to hurt our capacity to produce machinery and weapons and all that stuff. So it starts hitting our factories, right? And by the time you get all adults in service, it really hurts you. But you're not even allowed to do that until you're at war. Scrapping the barrel. What is this? Oh, this one's actually worse. Scrapping the barrel. Okay, scrapping the barrel is 25% of your population. So in real life, I mean, you got to think about that. That's 1 in 4 people, right? So, I mean, I don't know how many eligible people you have that in your workforce or whatever, but 1 in 4 people are going to be going to the front. That's going to kill your factories because I don't know who you got left. Women and kids are going to be sticking in there. But that's fine. Some of the exports. Okay, so this is like how much of our resources we're exporting. So whenever you see things like oil, right? We're actually, let's see, our production is that right? Let's see, we have 19 units for use, needed for production. What are we actually producing? We're importing that. We produce 4 oil, right? Oh, that's a bad example. I'll tell you what. Let's say aluminum, right? We produce 158 aluminum. We're exporting 39, right? And all we need right now is 23 for what we're building. If we start needing 155, we're gonna have to pull out from other countries, even though we're exporting 39, right? So the only way we can fix that is changing our export. We can export more. We can do free trade, right? Export 80% of our goods, which you definitely don't want to do that. It helps us in our factories and our research time and blah blah blah, but I think our goal is a closed economy for sure. We want to be self-sufficient, which is what Hitler tried to do at the time anyways. So we definitely want to do that. It's just right now it's not ideal or even plausible to be able to do that. Mobilization. So this is how our country's going to be prepared for war. So we start off with a big advantage here. A lot of countries start off where they have no access to military factories. They can't recruit that many people from their population. America's really bad about this because they're into isolationism. So we have already partial mobilization. Other countries can't even get to this yet because the world is not at war yet. See, so there's only 2% world tension generated. And we generated it, right? Because we moved into the Rhineland. So right now, this is fantastic. If we can make this even better, so we do, let's see, the next step would be war economy. See our consumer goods factories? It goes from 20% to 15%. That's the civilian factories. So if we do that, we then have more factories. So instead of 15 and 1, right, which is what we started off with, even though we have a little less now because we're getting resources from other countries, we will have, you know, maybe 15 and 3 or whatever 5% is. So that's going to be pretty important. And eventually we want to go to total mobilization. Well, see, at war, yeah, total mobilization is the end one. That means we're just, ready to go to war. Our military factories are ramped up as much as they can, but we have to actually be at war to get to this one, I believe. Some of these other things is we're going to put in different political advisors to help us out or whatever once we get enough political power. Actually, we have enough. Yeah, we do. We have enough. Okay. Or we can do different companies that'll design our stuff. Like, for example, tank companies. You got Porsche, Hinskell, I guess. I don't know how you say that. Or Man. They give different advantages. So, like, Porsche, for example, makes your armor, the armor on your tanks a little better. And they can hard attack a little better. Now, for me, I prefer speed and reliability. Speed is important because you can get behind enemy lines, cut off supplies, things like that. Especially since we're blitzkrieg. I mean, Jesus. Speed's definitely what we want. So, I would go with Heinschel. But it goes for all kinds of different things. So your ships, your aircraft, material designs. So, artillery or motorized infantry or whatever. Industrial concern. You got your refinery. IG Farben, Crump for your industry, Siemens for your electronics. And you got military theorist, which will help you out. Now, we definitely want to go with Erich von Manstein. Like I was saying before, he's the best general of the war. Arguably, I guess. But, he'll give us army experience right away. So your guys, as they're fighting, they're noobs right now. But as they get more experienced, which means as they are in combat longer, then they will become more, they'll become veterans and they'll fight better and all that stuff. So that'll be what we want to get eventually. And it also allows our warfare doctrine 10% reduction in speed. So we can do the military theories a lot faster. Now, I won't even go into these national characters down here. This is only something for Rota 56, I'm pretty sure. So, your military staff, again, this is like different things. Your, Keitel, he'll make them produce faster. The training time. Hans Falder will increase your division attack, whatever. So, for right now, let's see if we can... Well, we can't mess with the imports, I don't think. We can't mess with mobilization. Because we want to be at that, but it has to be a world tension of 15%. So I guess for right now, we'll focus on political advisor. So what we got is armaments organizer. That's a conversion rate from civilian to military factories of less time. We're not going to be doing that. Probably at all. Like, I don't like to do that. Captain of industry. This helps my civilian factories build faster, my refineries build faster. We definitely want to go with that right away. But get your war industrialist. We'll definitely want to do Funk here in a minute. Helps our military produce faster. We're not available to get this one right now, but we'll definitely want to get that. We'll have to research the Reich's Autobahn. Once we research that, then we can get land forts. We're going to be building land forts, so it's important that we do that one. If you ever want to switch to the Ally side or the Russian side, you have to be their same political party, right? It's gonna be very difficult for you to switch over being a fascist to democracy, to the Allies. So you have to switch to democracy, and you'll get this guy, and he'll move your government towards that, and your people will start to support him or whatever. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna keep this all historically accurate, so we're not gonna worry about going to communism or democracy. If you've got anybody, you can influence other governments to change to fascism. So if somebody's doing it to you, you want to bring in Goebbels to have you support fascism. So you're kind of using it as defense. Rudolf Hess, he will give you 15% political power gain. So obviously we want to fill in all these slots. Rudolf Hess will get us there faster because he's going to bring in... more political power. Excuse me. So that's going to be important. But if you know anything about history, Rudolf Hess decided during the war to get on a plane and fly to England in 1940, 1941, something like that, to try to negotiate peace with the Allies. Flew to England, was captured. So at some point, this fool's going to leave. So if anything, I'll probably want to bring in Martin Bormann. He does the same thing, except he's not going to get on a flight and abandon us. Heinrich Himmler, he's going to help against partisans. So that'd be really good. He's the head of Gestapo. Well, he's the head of the SS, right? So whenever you start getting Gestapo in there and start terrorizing the citizens and making sure they're not trying to fight us, he's definitely a guy to do. Right now, it's a necessary thing. Get your political power gain, and that's ideological drift defense. So again, Ribbentrop will be making sure we won't go to communism, and then he'll give us a little bit of political power as well. Trade deal opinion factor. I actually don't know what that means. I don't know. So I'm definitely not going to do that one. I don't even know what it does. Let's see. So I guess we'll do Martin Bormann, right? Because we need political power right now as much as possible. Now, we're done with the Rhineland. So let's start focusing on our industry, right? I think this is the route to go because they start doing building slots. Once we get down here, we're going to start adding, oil and rubber. Now, this is another thing that's not in the regular game. So this Road to 56 gives you a lot more options. Whoever made this thing did a really good job because they're going to give you oil and rubber in Württemberg, I guess, which is fantastic. So we can definitely use that. So we'll focus on this now. There's here it is. Okay, so privatize the Reich's Autobahn, right? So it's going to give you more civilian factories, like a lot more. It's going to give you 6 more just researching this alone, and then another 6 researching finish the Reinhard program. I mean, these are definitely where we want to go. I think there's one that gives you military factories as well. Somewhere down here? Maybe not. I don't know. It doesn't even matter because civilian factories is all I'm worried about right now. So definitely jump into that. Okay, let's turn the game back on. We should get a notification about the Rhineland. Here we go. The remobilization of the Rhineland. Germany has stationed troops in the Rhineland territory, close to the French border, in clear violation of the Treaty of Versailles. The local population cheered the German soldiers on, while the diplomatic reactions from Britain and France have so far been muted. It is no more than Germans walking into their own backyard, a political commentator in Britain observed. So now we can put troops here and we can build things here. Now, I remember earlier we were trying to build, I think it was anti-aircraft. Yeah. So now I can build this. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's check up on everything. Now, in the beginning here, this game is pretty slow until we're just preparing. Once everything starts kicking off, it's going to be fantastic. But with Germany, you really got to prepare because you're going to be invading like everybody. I mean, shit, within a couple months span, we're going to invade like this country, that country, these two, that one, Luxembourg, and then Norway. So in real life, what they did was they hit Poland on September 1st, 1939, right? And then they waited, I think it was like 6 months before they started invading all these other ones. But for me, I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. I want to destroy Poland and then move into these other territories as fast as possible. Instead of having the 6 months of phony war or whatever. I think it was September they hit them, and then they didn't invade these other ones till the spring. So March or April or something like that, if I recall. Okay, so we got our Air Force a little bit, just to go into that. We got some planes on standby, and of course we're building more planes, so if we wanted, we can bring in our dive bombers or whatever. We'll hold off on that, but we already got some aircraft, some fighters, and then some bombers, so suppose we want to put them in the Benelux region. We can, right? And then we'll say we want you to fight other planes. Like, that's only an option for the fighters, obviously. Bombers can't fight other planes. We need some close air support, and then for the bombers, what is this? Attempt to prevent enemy planes from doing them. Okay, so that's, again, for the fighters. Interception. Strategic bombing, bomb naval bases, and then port strikes, right? We can do that. Now, they're not going to do it right now because we're not at war with these guys. But they're flying over there and they're just preparing. And obviously they're not going to shoot our planes down right now. Now we're not going to do any of that. So we'll just call that off. But just to give an example. And if we need to move any planes, we can always move them now into the Rhineland, you know. And then give them missions, but we're not going to worry about that. These indicators over here are put us in, you know, aircraft mode. So we can see all these different things. You got your army mode, which is our usual thing. Our default map. Strategic Navy mode. So this shows our Navy and what the area that we're controlling. What's over here. We got our two navies, right? What they're doing. There is, let's see. This shows supply areas. So how we have supplies going. Now we got great supplies right now. It becomes an issue later on whenever you go into countries that doesn't have very good infrastructure. Eastern Europe has a little crappier infrastructure, but when you go into Russia, then you start getting into really bare bones third world economy, no infrastructure crap. But right now we're good. If they were to cut off our supply here, suppose they went to war and they control the Baltic, then Prussia would be suffering. It's important that we unite Prussia with Germany. What else we got? We got different states, right? I never use that. Resistance. Now, this looks normal right now. But if we're in Poland, suppose like this area might be yellow. Or God forbid, it's red. Which means that we need to station an army. Suppose we'll put von Rundstein, right? And we'll say, hey, you know, you're having issues right here. Oh, hold on, this is... Okay. I'll pause that. We're having issues right here, right? And you can tell them, say, suppose this is the area where we need to fight resistance. He does different things. So they can guard cities. They can guard naval bases. You know, so maybe like this guy, for example, we want him to guard naval bases here so that we can disperse our troops on a longer area, right? Because you don't want to have... Because whenever we control Northern Europe... We don't need 500 divisions right here controlling this, but that might be what it calls for to occupy all that coastland. So instead of doing that, we'll say, hey, just guard naval bases. We don't need to guard the coastland, right? And see how it reduces the garrison number? And which is fine. I mean, you don't have to guard the entire coastland. All you have to do is guard naval bases, right? Because if they don't have a naval base secured, then... they can't get supplies to their troops, so they can Normandy land all they want, but without a port, they can't bring in supplies, so their people are just going to starve. You can say guard our forts that we have, guard our air bases, or attempt to lower resistance. Now, if your division, right now our divisions are very bare, see? But you can always say, hey, and then right here you'll have the option to put in an MP. Which is what we'll want once we research it for divisions like that to protect against resistance. It's not an issue now because we're not controlling any other territory other than the German Rhineland. The German Heartland. Okay, so that's done. We'll just keep moving down the list here. Appoint economic positions. I don't know if they're actually going to appoint anybody. The only way for Germany to recover from the Great Depression fully is to ensure we have a united economy. We can facilitate... Oh, this can be facilitated by appointing a president of the Reichsbank and a minister of economics. So this will appoint some people for us. This is not in the regular game, I'm pretty sure. Which is fine. I understand I'm playing a different version. But, I mean... The mechanics are all still the same, and that's the reason why I'm making this video anyway, so. Like I said, it's a little slow in the beginning, but we're just preparing. So let's see how our supplies are doing. Okay, our supplies are up. We got good infantry equipment. Our support equipment's going up. Let's see how our production's going. Everything looks good. We're producing at full capacity on a lot of these things. Okay, cool. So now let's start building some troops. We got enough stuff and supplies. How's our 29 days? Okay. We got 15 again. I don't know how that happened. But oh, we got back rubber, right? I don't remember. Anyways, okay. So let's start bringing in some troops. Build 6 divisions. Now on these, you can say deploy immediately, right? But they're not fully trained, so they're noobs. They're not going to be as good as regular soldiers. But if you're in a bind, then you obviously have to do that. These guys aren't trained at all, so they have to at least be 20% trained, right? So maybe like here, and then you can deploy them. Now later in the game, if you're in trouble, that becomes extremely important. Okay, what else we got? Oh, you know, let's do some more mountain troops. Set a location. We'll set them up in. Oh, that's the one I can't say. Do 3 divisions there. How are we looking on supplies? A little bit under. It says we'll have a shortage for 15 days. Probably more than that now. No, 14 days. Okay. Now, whenever you start fighting, these numbers will start running out a lot quicker because obviously they're firing more shots. And right now, all they're doing is using this for training purposes, so it's not diminishing your supplies very quickly. But as you fight, especially if you're fighting, let's say, Russia, and you've got like, I don't know, 150 divisions on the front, and they're all fighting, these numbers are going to go down like crazy. So you need to be sure that you're producing a lot. Right? I don't want to just keep building men, and keep this number right at 0. I want to have a strong surplus because I know that once they get bogged down, I'm going to have shortages like crazy. Which was, of course, another problem Germany had during World War II. Not only for resources, which is a humongous problem, but industrial capacity. So, right now, the most industrialized, industrial muscle country is America, the arsenal of democracy, right? But I don't even give a shit about them. They're so far away, you know, and they're all isolationism and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to be able to do anything to us right away. So, this is the one I'm worried about. These guys are not far away, and they have every bit as much industrial muscle as America does. Okay, so that got done. These still have a couple more days left. Electronical engineering. I guess we'll start going towards radar. Radar is important. This is a radio, so this will give us faster reinforcement rates. So, plus it'll help us develop a signal company for our infantry. Radar is very important because with radar, we can detect movement of planes. So if you get radar stations and you set them up in your area, it gives your Air Force an advantage. And it gives your anti-aircraft an advantage. Of course, we all know that from the Battle of Britain. Oh. They beat the German Air Force because of radar. So we were ahead in synthetic refining of oil, right? Oh, what happened here? Okay, appointed economic positions. Let's see, appointing economic positions. We have 2 appointment options for the office of Reich's Bank President and Economic Minister. One of the possible appointees is, holy shit, Heijmar Socket? I have no idea. He's very good at working with German companies and developing civilian infrastructure, but his lack of loyalty to the NSDAP and his disdain for military spending make him a worrying choice. Our second possible appointee, Walter Funk, is very loyal to the NSDAP and is a major proponent of military spending. If we are to make good progress with German recovery, we must choose one of the 2 men to lead our economy. And it gives you what's going to happen. So if we get this guy, which I'm not even going to try to say his name again, max factories in each state, 10%. Our construction speed of regular factories is up, while our military factories is down. We get a resource gain. With Funk, we get faster conversion. Our construction speed is down, but our military factory speed is up. And we get a political power gain. So this is a guy I chose in real life, so I'm going to go with him. Plus, military is more important because we're not even producing other things. Okay, so Reich's Autobahn, that's where we want to go because it's going to give us our civilian factories quicker. So we'll do that. Okay. And we'll go ahead and end this video here. We will come back on the 18th of, well, we'll call it the 20th of April in this thing. All right, guys. See you next time.